Welcome to the Warrior in Progress podcast. This podcast features honest and vulnerable discussions about how to make lasting mindset shifts. Through these mindset shifts, you'll be able to commit to yourself and stop sabotaging yourself so you can transform your life. I'm your host, Jennifer McKee, certified health coach and motivational speaker. Look, I've been there. I've done that. I've lost over 50% of my body weight naturally. That's 185 pounds. I invite you to subscribe to the Warrior in Progress podcast for motivational, inspirational, and thought-provoking topics where I'll share with you some practical tools that I've learned on my journey so far that will empower you and help you to access that inner warrior that's inside each and every one of us. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to the Warrior in Progress podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer McKee. Thanks so much for being with me today. The topic today is how to love yourself. I can remember from a very young age that I was told that I needed to learn how to love myself and that I wouldn't be able to love anybody else fully until I could love myself. So I always knew this, and I don't know if you remember this song by Whitney Houston, The Greatest Love of All. Well, that came out when I was growing up in the 80s, and I really loved that song. And I remember being a really young girl listening to the lyrics of that song. And, I understood logically what she was saying, but I just didn't know what action steps I could take daily to love myself. And so anyway, throughout my life, I kept hearing people say, you need to learn how to love yourself. You need to learn how to love yourself. And obviously, I did not love myself at all. And, let me rephrase that. I liked certain things about myself. I did not love myself as a whole, though. I did not love myself with all of my imperfections. I've heard in a lot of readings I've done, people talk about that we have like a dark side and a light side. And, those darker parts of myself, I found it very hard to accept and love. So those parts of myself, I would just try to suppress and ignore. But unfortunately, they would cause me a lot of issues later in life, such as my binge eating and other things like that. Okay, so I remember, and I know I've talked about this to a lot of my clients and on live videos I've done and talks I've done and in previous podcast episodes, but I remember in 2015, right before I started my transformation, I was seeing a therapist to try to figure out why I couldn't commit to myself. And to make a long story short, she basically asked me if I could love myself at my current weight. At the time, I weighed 348 pounds. I was morbidly obese. And through tears, I said to her, no, I can't love myself like this and this big, right? And she said, Jennifer, you need to learn how to love yourself at any weight. Because it's not like you reach a number on a scale and then all of a sudden you love yourself. And I've had other therapists tell me things in the past like that those darker sides of me, of myself, don't define me. They are just a part of me. I have a lot of really amazing qualities about myself as well. We have to accept ourselves as a whole. I used to think only if I got to a certain point, then I would love myself, right? If only I weighed a certain amount. If only I had a relationship that was healthy. If only I had this great job. If only I was making X amount of dollars a year. If only I had this degree or that certificate. Only if I finished a 5K. Only if I had, what I'm saying? And none of that was true because I was looking for happiness outside of myself. One of my favorite quotes, it's actually sitting right in front of me, is true inner joy is self-created. It does not depend on outer circumstances or outer achievements. That's right. True inner joy and happiness is created within. And I knew that a huge part of that was learning how to love myself and shifting my perspective on those things, that I could be happy right now with the way things were happening in my life currently, whether I had a great job or not, whether I was in a relationship or not, whether I weighed 358 pounds, 348 pounds, 338 pounds, or 150 pounds. I could love myself right now and appreciate the journey that I was on and make a choice to learn and grow every single day and to work on becoming a better version of myself every single day. When this therapist told me that I needed to love myself at any weight, that was a huge epiphany for me because I knew she was right. I knew she was right, and I found myself once again in the same position I had found myself many times in my life up to this point. By this time, I think I was about 37 years old, 36, 37 years old. And I realized it came back to the same thing. I had to learn how to love myself. Okay. I knew this because I didn't love myself. Like I said, I hated myself. I had a very negative inner talk. I'd be beating myself up and or keeping myself in denial about what was really happening, about the amount of weight I had gained in a short period of time and the unhealthy choices I was making. I would just, kind of overlook those things and ignore it in addition to beating myself up. So I realized it came back once again to loving myself. And I thought like, how the heck am I going to do this? Like, it sounds all great. Like, okay, just love yourself. But how do you go about doing that? I want to talk to you today about some of the things I've learned, the action steps you can take to improve your relationship with yourself so that you can love yourself as a whole. All the parts of yourself, okay? Not just the good parts of yourself. So the first key, forgive yourself and others. You did the best you could at the time with the knowledge you had. You don't know what you don't know, okay? Hindsight's 20/20, but like I said, we don't know everything. I believe life is like a university or a school, and we are learning lessons, hopefully learning the lessons through our experiences in life. And there is so much to learn. There's so much to learn. So we go through experiences in life and we learn and we grow from those things. Now, I truly believe we repeat the same mistakes over and over and over until we finally learn the lesson. But I think the most important thing with forgiving yourself is to look at yourself and your part, and also when forgiving others, is to look at yourself and your part and make a choice to forgive yourself or someone else. And if you're forgiving somebody else, it's not for them. And I'm not saying that it makes them right, but I'm just saying forgive them for yourself. Forgive them for yourself, because then you can let go of whatever that weight is you're carrying around in regard to that, right? To let go. That's when you can truly grow and change and move on with your life. And also when it comes to forgiving others, remember, they did the best they could at the time with their prior experiences. Again, I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm not saying that what they did, that they should have done that or that you deserved it. No, I'm not saying any of that. But I'm just saying, recognize that they did the best they could at the time as well, and forgive them for you. Just forgive them for you, not for them. Forgive them for you, okay? Give yourself compassion and love when you make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Every single day I'm making mistakes over here. And instead of beating myself up, I make a choice to learn from those choices or mistakes. And you guys know I don't like to say mistakes. I like to call them learning opportunities. But, learn from these choices and move on, grow. Okay, so the second key when learning how to love yourself is to change your inner talk. Most of us beat ourselves up, and that just keeps us stuck. We have this all or nothing perfectionist thinking. We think we have to do everything, quote unquote, right. And life doesn't work that way. We are works in progress. Actually, we're warriors in progress, right, guys? Warriors in progress. So when we beat ourselves up, like I said, it keeps us stuck, and it keeps us from letting go and from learning and growing from our experiences in life. So if you can challenge your inner talk in a healthy and positive way. And if you guys listen to my inner critic podcast episode, you know all about this. But you can challenge that inner critic in a healthy, positive way and keep yourself in reality. Okay, what I mean by that is a lot of times the inner critic tells us things that are not true. Tells us we're not lovable. Tells us that we're not good enough. It tells us we're a failure. And those things are simply not true. Let's say that I make a mistake. Does that make me a horrible human being? Does that make me unlovable? Does it make me a failure? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I can tell myself those kind of things and buy into those kind of things and give those thoughts power. That's what can keep me stuck. So if you can recognize that that's not reality and just say, hey, wait a minute, just because and tell yourself, when you challenge the inner talk, say to yourself, actually, just because I made this choice or made this mistake doesn't mean that I'm not good enough or a failure. It just means that I made a mistake and I'm a human being, and I'm going to make the choice right now to learn from this, let go, and move forward so that I can grow. And, this is a daily practice, challenging and changing your inner talk, and it gets easier over time. And the other thing with the inner talk is, even if you're not beating yourself up, you may be telling yourself things that keep you in denial. Like, oh, I just ate that whole bag of potato chips or that whole cake, but it's not that bad, But then what happens is you do that repeatedly and you end up gaining 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds before you know it, because you've been keeping yourself in denial. So I want you to pay attention to that inner talk as well. I see it a lot with my clients, and I've also done it myself, where it's like, we tell ourselves, no, I'm eating pretty good. Okay, well then why is the scale going up? Like, why have you gained 20 pounds? Why have you gained 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds? The sooner you can recognize that kind of self-sabotage, inner talk and that inner talk that keeps you in that place of denial, the sooner you can continue with your goals, right? And also what I would like to say in regards to inner talk is, I would encourage you and invite you to talk to yourself. Treat yourself like you would your child, your spouse, your partner, your parents, somebody that you love and care for. I was first told that by a therapist many, many years ago, and I just thought, wow, that seems like common sense. Why have I never done that before? And it was a very hard thing for me to do at first, and I had to be very intentional about it, and I had to think about it all the time, because that was very foreign to me. And the more that I started to do that, the easier it became. The more that I started to talk to myself like I would someone that I deeply cared for, the easier it got over time, and then it became sort of second nature. The third key when learning how to love yourself is to put yourself first. I hear from my clients all the time that this is one of the hardest things for them, and this was one of the hardest things for me too. I would always put everybody else first before myself, and that left me feeling pretty drained, pretty empty, pretty sad, pretty lonely, and I would turn to food to cope, or I would cope in other unhealthy ways. So learning how to put yourself first really starts with integrity. Most of the times in my life where I've been unhappy, it was because of my lack of integrity with myself. And I even see that today, because I'm not perfect. So when I am not in integrity with myself today, that's when I start to feel sad. That's when I start to feel depressed. That's when I start to feel angry and all of those kind of negative emotions. And if I take a real hard look at myself, I notice that I'm not keeping the promises that I told myself I would keep, right? I'm not doing what I said I would do with myself. And so the only person who can change that is me. That is me. And it's about progress, not perfection. So putting yourself first really starts with integrity. Doing what you say you're going to do with yourself. And if you find yourself out of integrity with yourself, to clear your integrity with somebody else. So tell somebody else, hey, look, I didn't do this thing that I promised myself I would do, and I'm recommitting right now. One of my favorite quotes is by Chris Powell, and it is, life is not about committing, it's about recommitting. I absolutely love that because I wholeheartedly agree with that based on my experiences in life. I am constantly recommitting And I don't want to say maybe constantly, but I am recommitting a lot because I'm not perfect. But for me, it's all about progress, not perfection. So the fourth key when loving yourself is to practice these things. Practice these things on a daily basis. Be very intentional with them and conscious. You have to practice this stuff over and over and over and over because this is usually not your normal. You know what I mean? It's like this kind of stuff was so foreign to me. So the more I practice it, the better that I get at it. And the more it becomes like second nature. And then it becomes easier, a lot easier. But, consistency is the key to making lasting changes in your life. I'm going to say that again. Consistency is the key to making lasting changes in your life. If you commit to something today and for whatever reason you don't do it, commit to it the next day or commit to a slightly easier version of it and then build on that over time. But you have to be consistent with it. Think about it. If I brush my teeth once a week, or maybe twice a week, one week I do it once a week, one week I do it twice a week, and I go to the dentist after, 6 months, do you think my teeth are gonna look good to the dentist? Probably not. I need to be brushing my teeth every day, preferably multiple times a day, in order for me to have good dental hygiene, correct? Do you agree with that? Yeah. So the same thing, it goes with creating healthy habits and learning how to love yourself. This is going to take that consistency, but it is so worth it. And don't forget that those small changes add up over time. I mean, I say that in pretty much every podcast episode because that idea applies to everything in life. And it works. It works. I have seen it work in other people's lives. I've seen it work in my life. And it's actually kind of a relief. It's actually a relief that I don't have to make huge, major changes right now, and that I can just focus on these small changes because that seems a lot more doable than if I were to go from A to Z. Another one of my favorite quotes is by Chris Powell. He says, everybody wants to get from point A to point Z, but they don't realize they just have to get to point B first. Amen, Chris Powell. Thanks for that quote. I love it. So the final key to learning how to love yourself that I'd like to share with you today is to learn how to love yourself as a whole. Okay, so to love yourself, those parts of you that you already love, but also those parts of you that maybe you don't like so much, that you have shame about, that you have guilt about, and to understand that those things do not define you. You are a whole person made up of so many amazing qualities. And I would encourage you to look at those areas that you don't like. Many of them can be worked on or changed. And what I have found with myself is that many of the areas that I didn't like about myself had to do with the fact that I wasn't taking actions for myself or keeping promises to myself that I knew I needed to. So for example, I used to hate the fact that I would binge eat or emotionally eat, but I continued to stay stuck and do that behavior and then beat myself up, every single time and tell myself things like, see, I told you you couldn't do this. See, I told you you wouldn't be able to eat healthy. I told you that healthy eating wasn't going to be satisfying, etc., right? But what it came down to is that I wasn't fully committing to small action steps daily so that I didn't have to turn to food. I wasn't learning how to cope with my stress in a healthier way instead of turning to food, right? So my point is just that if you can love yourself, work on loving yourself as a whole, accepting where you are right now on your journey, have compassion for yourself where you are on your journey and have love for yourself and recognize that where you are today is not necessarily where you'll be tomorrow. It really is all up to you. Ask yourself, if there's something that I don't like about myself, it's okay, figure out what that is, right? Okay, that's this. I don't like this thing about myself. Okay, what's one small action step that I can do today to work on this and to get better? And maybe some of it has to do with just saying an affirmation to yourself or changing some of that negative inner talk. Or maybe it's, instead of buying a pizza tonight for dinner, I'm going to make myself a healthier dinner, So work on accepting yourself as a whole, understanding that we all have that light and dark part of us, learning how to love ourselves and embrace ourselves as we are, where we are on our journey. And then if there's something that is causing you issues in your life, that is having a negative impact on your life, whether that's some things that you're telling yourself, whether those are unhealthy behaviors that you're doing, what is one thing you can do today to make a different choice? And I would also encourage you to seek professional help. Sometimes we need professional help. When we're talking about eating disorders, trauma, addictions, it's very important, in my opinion, to seek professional help when necessary. You don't have to do this alone. And in fact, most of us can't do this alone. So I would encourage you to seek the help that you need, whatever that is. And I want to just point out too, these were the keys that I wanted to share with you in regards to how to love yourself, but there are so many ways to love yourself. These are just my top keys and ideas that will help you get on your way to learning how to love yourself. Okay, so let's talk about the call to action. The first thing for the call to action is to start doing one nice thing for yourself every single day. I don't care what that is. It could be to, one day you might take a bubble bath. Another day you might buy yourself a coffee at Starbucks. Like whatever it is, I want you to treat yourself to something nice every single day. And this needs to be a healthy behavior, right? So I don't mean treat yourself to a whole pizza, right? I wish. No. We're talking about a healthy behavior. So something that's a healthy thing that you can do for yourself every single day. The second thing is you might consider using affirmations or meditations, guided meditations. This will help you change that inner talk and just rebuild that relationship with yourself. I personally do both of these things every single day. And there's actually an app I use called Insight Timer. It's free. There's a ton of free guided meditations. And I actually do 1 to 2 guided meditations every day. And I do 1 guided affirmations meditation every day. I also have some apps on my phone, and they send me various affirmations throughout the day on my phone, like little notifications. And I love that. Because it just helps me, I could be really busy with life and really busy with work. And then I look at my phone and I see this affirmation, and it really helps center me and bring me back to the present moment. So I really love that. The third call to action is gratitude. I would encourage you every single day to write down 3 things that you're grateful for that you did today for yourself or for others. That's right. 3 things that you're grateful for that you did today for yourself or others. That's a great way to thank yourself. And I would even encourage you to take that a step further and write down 3 things that you're grateful for in general, that maybe don't involve you, but just happen to be the case. Maybe you're grateful for your spouse, maybe you're grateful for your children or your job or whatever it is, but because that helps keep us in a positive state of mind. Most of us focus so much on what's not going right that we forget to see what is going right in our life and to be thankful for the things that are going right in our life. So that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode, and I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you so much for listening, and I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode of the Warrior in Progress podcast, then please share it with your friends, share it with everybody. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast as well so you can get notifications on when I release new episodes. Meanwhile, you can follow me on social media. On Facebook, my handle is fullycommitted13, and on Instagram, my handle is fully_committed13. You can find out more about my work at McKeeHealth.com. That's McKeeHealth.com. And make sure to download my free Tame Your Inner Critic guide at McKeeHealth.com, and you can learn how to stop beating yourself up, how to stop sabotaging yourself so that you can achieve your goals. Remember, you're a warrior in progress, and you can do anything you set your mind to.